Wall Street veteran Bernard Madoff has been arrested and charged with running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme.
Congress wants to know what caused the Enron meltdown.
Now, while the collective rage currently is focused on WorldCom,
Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski was convicted of looting hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
Their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Find out more on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
The global market for art in all forms in 2024 was a staggering $57.5 billion, which is more than the GDP of, let me look through my Rolodex of completely random countries, which I know almost nothing about the macroeconomics of, Cambodia, more than the GDP of Cambodia. Fine artwork is one of those cornerstones of the ultra-wealthy, along with yachts, facelifts, and paying off your mistresses so you can run for public office. It is also a trade that is known to be steeped in anonymity and vagueness, as people use it as a prime money laundromat throughout the world. That is why most deals happen off the books, and pretty soon someone might not know where the painting they are buying originally came from. This is what made it such a rife market for Wolfgang Beltracchi to exploit to the tune of over $100 million, but in an interesting way. Wolfgang is an expert forger who, over the course of decades, embarrassed art professionals and private collectors alike by diluting the art trade with hundreds of fake works by some of the best-known artists. When it all came crashing down, those who were dupes even called him a genius. Find out if he truly was a masterpiece factory or just an egotist who exploited a business that doesn't like to ask questions on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
First, I thought you were going to say Wolfgang Puck.
No. As far as I know, that guy hasn't done anything super illegal.
He makes an excellent butternut squash soup.
So good, it should be illegal, right?
It should be illegal.
Wait, did you just say butternut squash soup?
Yeah.
The ceiling on that is so low. There's no way I'm going to enjoy a butternut squash soup like more than a pizza.
No, you're not, but it's still, out of the canned soups, it's not bad.
I'm just saying. Welcome back, everybody, to the canned soups of podcasts, White Collars, Red Hands. But good, like chunky, not like Progresso, okay? Not Campbell's Tomato, okay? That's some not old person podcast.
Chicken and stars.
Okay, well, chicken is. All right, we're not going to get in a soup debate. I'm Kashan.
And I'm Nina.
And yeah, today we're talking about Wolfgang Beltracchi. But before we get into him, we have some exciting news. Exciting to us, maybe not exciting in the grand scheme of things, but you can see our faces for the long duration of about 3 seconds on a docuseries that was just released on Prime Video about Zachary Horowitz, the Hollywood hustler. So go ahead and check it out. We are in there for a 3-second clip and a compilation of other people talking about Zachary Horowitz in the 3rd episode of a docuseries. But hey, it's the first big break for us. The director of that was also the director of The Tiger King, which is cool. So yeah, we're going to talk about Wolfgang Beltracchi. So let's get into this expert art forger, shouldn't we? Wolfgang Beltracchi was not born a Beltracchi. Instead, he was born Wolfgang Fischer on February 4th, 1951 in Höxter, Germany, but spent most of his growing years outside of Cologne in the very German-named town of Geilenkirchen.
That is very German.
And there's, I tried to look at a map of Germany for this, Nina, and the names of the towns.
Probably had an aneurysm.
The names of the towns are just like crazy. I don't know why everything has to be so long in German. They needed to be hard, I think is what it is. They thrive on difficulty. According to Beltracchi, his father was a church painter, but that didn't bring in much money. So
I feel like there's so many churches that need painted.
You'd be surprised how many churches are in Germany or in Europe in general.
There's a lot.
They always need a little touch up, Mm-hmm. But it didn't bring in much money for the family, so in order to get some sweet, sweet Deutsche Marks on the side, he painted fakes of well-known artists, Da Vinci, Van Gogh, Picasso, but he wasn't really, like, that good. His paintings would sell, however, at least when he hawked them on the street, and he could fetch a decent sum for a side hustle. Beltracchi tells tale that when he was 14, as he became more interested in art, he asked his father if he could help with one of the fake paintings. And his father agreed and gave him a postcard sporting a Picasso as a reference to a painting that Wolfgang had never seen before this. He sat down and he painted a replica in one afternoon. When his father came back and saw the painting, he was so astonished that his son produced something so much better than he could that he didn't touch a brush for 2 years afterwards.
That, my friends, is some fragile male ego.
Well, at least that's how the story goes. As you will find out throughout this episode, at least in my opinion, Wolfgang Beltracchi is a complete egomaniac who thinks that everything he touches turns to gold. So I really kind of struggled to believe this story. I think he might have just not liked his dad. Kind of blew this out of proportion in his mind a little bit. What I do believe, however, from the stories from his youth is that he was kicked out of school at the age of 17. He worked at a strip club as a waiter when he was 17.
The rules over there are different.
I guess so. But it supposedly this was also, this is like the 60s. So this is 1968.
Isn't that when that like weird German dungeon porn came out?
I don't know, but since you brought up porn, and I was just about to, he was supposedly providing porno mags to his classmates.
Hell yeah.
And eventually...
I said, hell yeah, he's got the hookup. Wolfgang bang over here.
Oh, my God. Eventually, he got expelled after his math teacher spotted him at the club. So his math teacher was at the strip club, though, and was like, you're 17. You can't be here.
But why did Wolfgang get in trouble? His boss should have gotten in trouble. Why is the kid getting kicked out of school?
Here's the thing. I don't know, but maybe the optics of the whole scenario was too much for the school because he still got his diploma. So they basically just allowed him to leave early, but he says he got kicked out of school.
It's kind of like he inadvertently got kicked out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we can't have you you can't be out here doing this, but here's your diploma.
Well, it's more like he was forced into early retirement with a severance package, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's whatever. After high school, he attended the School of Applied Arts in Aachen, where Beltracchi says he started having trouble because his professors claimed that the work he turned in was not his own because it was just too good.
I hate it when that happens, when I just am so good at something that everybody's like, Nina, you had to have copied that. And I'm like, no, I'm just an absolute prodigy genius.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, am in the camp that thinks that he was just lazy and unmotivated in school and didn't really want to work hard. No matter who you believe, the outcome was the same. He stopped attending classes and he dropped out of college before finishing. Mm-hmm. After leaving university, Wolfgang Beltracchi got more involved in the growing movement of counterculture that I guess reached Germany. Somehow, I didn't see the tenets of free love being a part of the usually very regimented German personality, but there was a growing anti-war movement in many Western ideologies, including the Germans. But just imagine if hippies smelled like BO, weed, and sauerkraut. That feels like not a good mix to me.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Nina, no, you do not.
Don't say 9. I love it.
Oh, my God. Wolfgang grew his hair long and spent about a decade driving around Europe on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, smoking pot, opium, and dropping acid.
Fuck yeah.
Of course, as many of us know, drugs aren't free. No. At least not yet. Or necessarily even cheap, right? And Wolfgang decided to take a page from his dad's book and start making fakes of popular artwork to sell on the streets wherever he decided to rest his head. and Wolfgang was pleasantly surprised by just how well this business turned out for him. Wolfgang was making about 100 Deutsche Marks a day, which is the amount his father could make in a whole week. He really likes to say that.
I don't think he liked his dad.
Yeah, no. And of course, this is 20 years later. So, like, there is, like, a little bit of inflation to account for. You can't be like, oh, well, he only made 100 Deutsche Marks a week. You're like, it's been 2 decades, man. 2 decades ago, I might have been able to buy a house.
Also, this was the 60s and 70s when his dad was doing this. This was, like, right after World War II.
When
the
inflation
economy was in
bad.
shambles.
Yeah, not as bad as after World War I, but, yeah, still pretty bad.
Oh, bad. Bad enough for my family to immigrate here.
I have a reason to believe that was not the that the economy was not the only reason that you would leave that area during or after World War II.
It's not the only reason, but like.
But maybe it was.
My great grandpa couldn't find work, so.
Wolfgang was making enough money that he could keep his gas tank and his hash pipe full. His copycat artwork wasn't the only thing going well, though. And in 1978, Wolfgang was commissioned to exhibit 3 of his paintings at Munich-based museum Haus der Kunst, which is...
You know, we actually call my apartment Haus der Kunst.
No, you don't, because it doesn't contain any artwork. And Kunst means art. So, the Haus der Kunst...
You've never seen it.
The house.
It is a work of art.
It's a fucking Picasso because it's all fucking wonky and shit.
It's a Georgia O'Keeffe.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Yeah, yes, the Haus der Kunst is the house of art, which is the most German name for a place where there is art. They're not known for creativity. From this, he was offered a gallery contract to continue to paint original works, but to do so would tie him down and lock him into the life of a traditional artist. This would be the dream for basically every other young artist, to get paid for their work, but often those first years or decades under that gallery contract see no real prospering financially. And Wolfgang was interested in quick and easy money that allowed him to goof off as much as possible, so he declined to sign that gallery contract.
Wolfgang.
Don't worry, he does become a millionaire for, a short
illegally.
amount of time at least. Well, yeah. But Beltracchi was no longer satisfied with the 100 Deutsche Marks a day, so he set his sights on some extra cash flow by something less illegal. For the first time, Wolfgang decided to put his ability to imitate others' artwork to a more sinister purpose. He was well learned in the art history world and would often pore over many a catalogue raisonné, which is French, which makes it sound much fancier, but it's literally just an annotated listing of works by an artist or a group of artists, like in a book. Basically, just a little picture of their artwork with various descriptions, including a title, the year of production, dimensions of the painting, medium, and might even contain some comments by subject matter experts or like scholars on art. Sometimes these books contain entries with far less information. As artwork gets lost to time, there may be paintings which we still know the title of and maybe even the dimensions, but there is no existing photograph of a painting that, I don't know, fell off a truck somewhere along the way or is locked in someone's sealed fallout shelter after they had, just a boring old heart attack before the nuclear winter could ever be started. Works of art just get lost, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, there is one very common reason that art may have gone missing, especially around Wolfgang's country of origin, and it all starts with another man who never graduated from art school. Only problem was that he was never actually accepted. Of course, I'm talking about the one, the only, Adolf Hitler, who was famously rejected from the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna twice after failing his entrance exam.
You gotta wonder if those people regretted not accepting him. Like, would he have turned into the person he was if he had gone to art school?
No, that's bullshit, because they actually did offer him They did offer him a place. Not in the art program, though. Basically, they looked like he passed the first drawing test, and the second part is that you had to submit a portfolio of your work, and they were just like, you don't really have a lot of heads in here, so we think you can't paint people. But you're really good at painting buildings, so you should apply to the School of Architecture. And he said, no, fuck you, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily think it was their fault. And what people don't know, actually, is that Hitler continued to work as a professional artist in Vienna for 5 years after he was rejected from that art school between 1908 and 1913, where he failed to make anything but a meager living. So he did still try to be an artist and then failed at it.
Interesting. I did not know that. I've just never read a biography about Adolf Hitler.
Oh, Niner doesn't know anything about Hitler. Well, anyway, years later, and I don't know if you know this, Nina, but Adolf Hitler would lead the Nazi Party as they committed horrible atrocities in the Second World War all across of Europe. And he exacted his revenge upon the art world as a whole for the way they had mistreated his mediocre artistic ability by destroying works of art by others. The Nazis labeled certain art as degenerate, a label that usually ended up on works created by Jewish painters, but also had a focus on style. Hitler considered himself an art connoisseur even at this point, and had a lot of problems with the modern abstract art movements that were going on in Germany and all of Europe, of Cubism, Futurism, Dadaism, Expressionism later. And throughout the course of the war, it is estimated that the Nazis looted 16,000 works of modern art that they deemed degenerate from German citizens.
They destroyed all of that?
Not all of it. They passed a law that allowed the sale of stolen artwork and smuggled some of the most famous works, such as the Picassos and Van Goghs that they stole, out to other countries, including right here in America, to be auctioned off to fund the war effort.
Great. Perfect. Love that.
But those that could not be sold or were deemed to be most offensive to the Aryan ideals were simply destroyed and burned in large pyres. In total, it is believed that through the course of the war, not only in Germany but in annexed regions like Poland, the Nazis looted over 600,000 cultural objects, including artwork. This, of course, left a lot of blank pictures that exist in the Catalogue Raisonné, holes that could be filled by Wolfgang Beltracchi. Wolfgang started finding these missing paintings in these catalogs and dutifully studied the styles of the painters and created a new work of art in their style to match the given title and dimensions that were listed in the Catalogue Raisonné, and then would send them into art auctions as recently found. He would go as far as to listen to music that the artists were fond of, basically trying to get in their heads and method acting other artists to better steal their style.
That's interesting. Daniel Day-Lewis would be all about that.
Yeah. He started off with lesser known artists that were less likely to be scrutinized and began selling these works for a few thousand euros each, creating a new one whenever he would start getting low on funds. He stayed in this kind of small potatoes realm for a while until he met his new friend, Otto Schulte-Kellinghaus, who had connections in the fine art trading world. On top of that, Otto just wasn't a hippie. I mean, Wolfgang was good at painting, but he wasn't so good at bringing in an air of legitimacy to his operation. Kellinghaus, as a business partner in crime, made it easier to sell recreations to auction houses and actually have them believe that they were legit. All of this combined started building Wolfgang's confidence, and he decided to no longer just fake artwork from B-listers, but to aim for the best of the best. Well, not names universal to those who don't know artwork beyond, common knowledge. Like, I don't know who these people are, but people in the art realm know who they are. People like, and all of them were abstract artists, I should say. And these are people like Max Ernst, Heinrich Campendonck, Johannes Moltzen. Around this time, the duo was able to sell a fake Moltzen for 41,000 euros. So they're worth a little bit more money than the people he was, faking previous to this.
Mm-hmm.
But with a step up in artists, Wolfgang also needed to up his backstory game. He and Kellinghaus together created a story about Otto's grandfather, who had the last name Knops, and just so happens to be a well-known German tailor in the 1930s. They claimed that Knops also collected art, and a few prize paintings in his collection had been deemed degenerate and were hidden away. Much to Otto's surprise, when he finds them all these years later and is able to restore these missing masterpieces to the world. Of course, the whole time, the paintings were being churned out by Wolfgang in his garage. But the story and Otto's presence quelled the fears of many art dealers who want to believe their story in the first place. They want these works of art to be found, so they believe a story that allows them to do so without much question in the form of confirmation bias. For a while, Wolfgang continues like this, producing as many paintings as is necessary for survival, anywhere from 10 a month to only a few a year. But he really started ramping up after he met his wife, Helene. He met Helene Beltracchi in 1992, and in less than a year, they were married, with Wolfgang taking her last name and officially becoming Wolfgang Beltracchi.
So progressive.
I know, right? Within a week of meeting her, he had told her that he made his money forging famous artwork. And her reaction was not one of surprise or contempt. In fact, this is an exact quote that she had to say about it. "Oh, I thought, I've never heard of anything like this. It sounded cool. And of course, I was impressed, and I still am, that he can paint a better Max Ernst than Max Ernst himself."
Good Lord.
She just thought it was the most rad thing you could be. A fraud.
A fucking liar. She's like, I love it when people lie to me and make their wealth off of lying to people.
Well, not only did she admire his ability to pull the wool over the eyes of the art world, but she offered ways to make his scheme better by beefing up his backstory. See,
Oh, Lord.
Helene's grandfather was a man named Werner Jägers. Super German name.
So German.
And he was a wealthy industrialist and lived in Germany through World War II. He made much more sense as a potential art collector who could have hidden these paintings away, especially if they were worth more money. Even better was that he used to live next to a well-known Jewish art collector by the name of Alfred Fleckheim. Fleckheim was known to have an extensive and expensive art collection that had been raided by the Nazis, leaving him penniless when he finally fled the country. Helene and Wolfgang said they had discovered this collection and were now selling those paintings. To give even more credence to their story, they developed a fake label, marking the paintings as being from Sammlung Fleckheim, which is the Fleckheim collection in German, that sported an abstract profile painting of Alfred Fleckheim himself that they affixed to the fakes they sold. Later, by the way, Wolfgang Beltracchi would include multiple portraits of Alfred Fleckheim as part of the paintings that were found in this collection to try and give it an air of legitimacy. Like he had asked these very famous artists to do a self-portrait of him.
Nice.
To make it seem like the labels were older than they actually were, they falsely distressed them by discoloring them with tea. Like if you've ever made like a fake treasure map for something and you have to put the tea bags on it and burn the edges. They basically just did that. And in fact, they got pretty inventive about making the paintings in a way that did make them look as original as possible. They really got creative with these fakes. Wolfgang would buy older paintings from thrift stores that were from the era and then remove the paint so that he could paint his paintings on same canvases and the same wooden backing that is all from the time period. So it would have, all the rusty nails. It would have wood that would carbon date to the same time that it was from, and the canvas would be original as well.
It's very inventive. I will give him that.
I know. And he would also mix his own paints so that the ingredients were period accurate. You might remember from 2 weeks ago, an anachronistic paint element is how they were able to disprove that Cincinnati trophy ball that Bill Mastro had sold was not from the area. So Wolfgang wanted to avoid this, and he was knowledgeable enough to make the paints himself. In an attempt to evade detection even further, he would actually create tester fakes and send them to a lab himself to see if anything would draw suspicion. Yeah. And then if it came back that something had raised a red flag and had like flagged it as not an original, he would not use that element anymore.
Oh my God. And these people like didn't catch on that maybe he was doing something weird? I mean, I guess how would you know?
Yeah, this is kind of like, these are laboratories that this is what they do. This is just routine.
Mm-hmm.
So no, probably not. Of course, when they started to sell paintings worth hundreds of thousands to millions of euros, people did ask more questions, especially when the Flecktime collection first made its way to appraisers. Like when they first said, we found this great collection that has been like sought after for decades at this point. People were like, I don't know. Like they had the label and people wanted to believe it, but they were still kind of wary of it. And in order to quell these suspicions, they showed them an old picture of Helene's grandmother sitting in a drawing room with the paintings behind her on the wall. And it looked original and the paintings were there. So they were like, well, it must be real. In actuality, though,
They took that picture of her grandma.
Helene was dressed up as her grandma. It was her grandma when she was young, because remember, it's in the past.
Yeah.
So they dressed her up in like period clothing, took a picture, and then they distressed the picture the same way they had been like distressing the labels.
Okay. This is actually diabolical. Like there's no getting around like we didn't do this on purpose. Like there's way too much thought, there's way too much effort, there's way too much energy to like deny that you did this.
Yeah, here's the thing is I don't think they ever denied it. They didn't really deny it. So, but yes, it took a lot of effort, but they got millions of dollars in return for it. So, and of course, it is easy to sit here knowing that these paintings were fake and judge those that so easily accepted their authenticity. But there was some credibility to the paintings beyond just their story and this picture. Multiple pieces were awarded certificates of authenticity by experts on the painters, which style Wolfgang was trying to imitate. For example, art historian Werner Spies, a world-leading expert on the paintings of Max Ernst, validated 7 paintings that Wolfgang had painted supposedly from the painter. So he said, yep, these are legit. Of course, grain of salt there is that he made millions of dollars in commission for his work to authenticate those from their sale afterwards. So, maybe some confirmation bias there as well. He was never like accused or thought to be in on it, but it's a little suspect that he got paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah, very suspect.
So, like I said, we can sit here and we can say like, oh, I bet you would be so easy to tell the difference between the paintings. So now...
Oh, no, I mean, if you're putting that much work into it, it probably would be pretty difficult.
Well, why don't we find out? Because now we're going to put Nina to the test to see if she can out-art expert the art experts in a game that I like to call Original or Criminal, where we show Nina 3 paintings, supposedly...
I'm going to do terrible at this.
Probably. All right, Nina, are you ready to play Original or Criminal?
Yes.
Oh, also, by the way, for those of you who are listening in the audio-only medium, this is not going to be a very fun couple of minutes for you. So feel free to skip forward, or you can watch the video on YouTube or Spotify. So, our first set of 3 paintings, Nina.
All right. Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm supposed to tell you which one's the fake?
Yes, you are. You have I don't know, maybe some kelp, some phytoplankton here on the left. Don't know what that is. Looks like you have a leaning tower of pizza, but with like a dumpy, like it got a big old bottom. It's sitting on a needle and it's got hands. And then it looks like you got a sun with a wave through it over an ocean. But lots of circles.
I'm gonna say the circles with it looks like the worm over the ocean is the fake.
That's the fake? You're correct.
I think so. Yay!
This was in the style of Max Ernst. And yes, this is a fake. I believe this is definitely one of those fakes that was confirmed by Werner Spies. All right, Nina. Your next set of 3 paintings is... They are all vases with flowers in them.
I originally thought I knew which one immediately, but now, because at first I thought it was the one with in the blue square or in the blue rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm thinking it might be the one with the red on the bottom, the red flowers with the red on the bottom. I'm going to go with my gut and say the one in the blue rectangle.
Crazy work. You're 2 for 2. That is the fake. This is Moise Kissling. And he painted more than just flowers and vases, but I decided I thought I was being hard on you by only choosing paintings of flowers and vases. All right, Nina, well, you're 2 for 2. There's 4 of these. So let's see if you can run the table. This is your next set of 3 paintings.
These all look like someone vomited. I'm going to go with the center one in the green.
I think the center one in the green?
Yes.
Well, Nina, I'm sorry. You're not going to be running the table today. It's that one there. It's that one there on the left.
Shit, that was my next guess.
There's 3, okay? Your next guess is not very good. These are Heinrich Campendonk. All right, Nina, there's one more. Okay, so you do have time. Let's see if you can get 75%. Which one of these is fake? Looks like you got a nice seaside cottage, a government building, and what looks like the Virgin Mary with Jesus.
Yeah. I think it's either the Virgin. This isn't my final guess. It's either the Virgin Mary with Jesus or it's the seaside cottage. I'm gonna go with the seaside cottage as the fake.
You think the seaside cottage is the fake?
Which one?
Now you've seen a lot of different art styles today. What would you think about this artist?
This person whose art.
Yeah, you think the art's good?
I mean, it's better than what I could do.
Yeah? Well, what if I told you that all of these paintings were painted by Adolf Hitler and they're all real?
I don't think he did. I mean, they were right. He was better at painting buildings than he was at painting people.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't want to give any laurels on Adolf Hitler, who is by far one of the most evil men who have ever walked this planet. Looks like he got better at heads, though. So, there's that.
Yeah.
If only.
If
only he stayed a starving artist. Well, thank you, Nina, for playing original or criminal. You got 2 out of 3 of the real ones.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. Well, Nina, I know that last Campendonk threw you, right? But you weren't alone. That painting was produced under the title Landscape with Red Horses, fooled a buyer out of 2.3 million euro at auction, which is the highest selling Heinrich Campendonk painting ever at this time.
And it was fake.
Yes. But it would also prove to be the great whale that finally took down Wolfgang Beltracchi's ship.
Ooh.
By now,
The iceberg.
By now, Wolfgang and Helene were no longer living the hippie lifestyle they once had. They were millionaires, and they took full advantage of it. In the early 2000s, the art market was booming, and Beltracchi's fakes were ending up above the mantelpieces of the world's uber wealthy, including one bought for 750,000 euros by none other than white-haired dynamo Steve Martin. He did sell the painting before the forgery was ever discovered, at a loss, might I mention, but he briefly did own a Beltracchi fake. Helene and Wolfgang bought a mansion in the south of France to go along with a spacious second home in Freiburg, Germany.
Ah, Nice.
They both drove luxury cars, and of course, Wolfgang bought the obligatory yacht that one must have if you are rich.
You have to.
By the late 2000s, Wolfgang Beltracchi had been saturating the art world with fakes for decades, but there are usually not bills of sale for art pieces for tax evasion purposes when paintings change hands, so it's hard to track them. That is, unless they marked all of their fakes with a universal symbol. I don't know, like the Fleckheim logo. So Alfred Fleckheim literally has one biographer, one person who's followed his entire life, and when he saw the logo on these paintings, he knew something was fishy. Fleckheim's picture was on the logo, a profile of him in like an abstract art style. And he was obviously a man who knew good artwork. And this portrait of him looked pretty bad. So bad that this historian, his biographer, concluded that there was no way he would ever use it as his calling card because it was just so bad. This, among other questions surrounding the collection, convinced the buyer of the 2.3 million euro Campendonk to send it into a lab for testing. As we've discussed, usually Beltracchi would mix his own paints to avoid detection by labs. But when it came to this painting, maybe he got overconfident or maybe he was on a time crunch because when he ran out of his self-mixed white paint, he went down to the store and bought a tube of white paint he thought would work. It didn't. It didn't. The paint contained titanium dioxide, which was not used in pigments from this era. Beltracchi claims that it was not listed on the label and that he did look before he used it, but it was there nonetheless.
He probably got cocky.
Yeah, I don't even know how often he was mixing his own paints. A lot of this stuff comes from like him directly. In addition to this, the lab also tested the glue holding on the Fleckheim label and noted that it was also not a glue that was available at the time that the painting was supposed to be made and held by Fleckheim. These combined got the painting labeled a fraud, the first one discovered. This obviously set off a domino effect, and every Fleckheim painting came under scrutiny, and quickly dozens of paintings were verified to not be original. They traced the paintings first to Otto Schulte-Kellinghaus and then to the Beltracchis. And on August 27th, 2010, both Helene and Wolfgang were arrested at their Freiburg home, with Otto being hauled in a month later. Originally, they were going to plead not guilty, and the prosecution put together a case that would call no less than 200 witnesses. And the trial began to get a lot of publicity and a lot of media attention, but only lasted 10 days before the prosecution and defense reached a deal that saw Beltracchi officially admit to forging 14 paintings, although he claims to have forged anywhere between 200 to 300, and he agreed to reimburse the victims to the tune of 35 million euro. Which, this was seen as kind of a big win for the art world because there's so much like crime that goes on in art. There were a bunch of people, I guess, that were really worried about this really high like media or really high visibility trial with 200 witnesses that were going to get really into the nitty gritty of how the fine art trade works. Because there is a lot of like cartels launder money through it. Like there's a lot of skeletons in the closet. So there were a lot of people that were happy to see this end quickly. But he agreed to pay back 35 million euro. The prosecution estimated that Wolfgang had made about 16 million euro from the scheme, but some estimates have it much higher, almost 100 million euro. And I think the discrepancy in that number might be that like he made 16 million from the 14 that he admitted to. But like if you count up everything, he made like a lot more, is what I'm assuming this is. So it is likely that he still walked away with some money shoved in a cookie jar somewhere. Since they cleaned out his 1 million euros that he had in a Swiss bank account, or at least the one that they found. Wolfgang was sentenced to 6 years in prison, Helene to 4, and Otto to 5. This being a European country, however, though, meant that the Beltracchis were allowed to attend an open prison where they could leave for the day to work and return only at night. And work in this case for them was employment with a rich photographer friend of theirs, where basically both got out where basically Wolfgang got to paint all day and Helene just kind of got to hang out, and then they'd go back to prison at night.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds so nice.
Took a bunch of money and then basically just
chilled.
Has to sleep in a prison at night. And even with that, they still both got out a couple of years early. And immediately they went on a press tour. Since being released, multiple pieces of media have been strategically released by Wolfgang Beltracchi, including a 60 Minutes interview and a documentary made by a friend of theirs entitled Beltracchi, The Art of Forgery, which all paint Wolfgang as being a genius and really downplays the fact that he falsely used the names of other artists to give his work credibility, and that he used the tragedy of World War II to provide a cover story for him to do all of this. Which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but Werner Jaegers, Helene's grandfather that they said was the one who had the Flecktime collection, he was also a Nazi.
No, you did not mention that.
So it's kind of really unbelievable that they said that he was friends with Flecktime, that Flecktime gave him the paintings to hold for safety, but Werner Jaegers was a Nazi. So I don't really think that he would be very nice to Alfred Flecktime.
Probably not.
So it's kind of, it's a little icky what they did in that regard as well. Today, though, his originals do sell for a few thousand euros, now that he's gotten some attention, and his work is displayed all over the world. He actually has a few upcoming exhibitions for his personal work, and he no longer makes forgeries. He just makes it, but he still makes artwork, but now he just labels it in the style of this artist.
Okay.
But he at least says that he painted it.
Can't have an original painting.
So many people consider Wolfgang Beltracchi to be a mastermind or a savant, a genius. No one more than Beltracchi himself. Because his Campendonk painting was actually the highest priced one ever sold, Wolfgang loves to say that he made a better Campendonk than Campendonk himself. The art world, though, doesn't care much about skill, let's be honest. Or at least they rarely do. It's all about the statement and the hand waving, the social construct around the art that people are really paying for. Wolfgang Beltracchi was able to imitate, but he was too lazy to invest in creating a style of his own. And even now, that style is considered mediocre by the greater art world. People don't pay for the best artwork when it comes to fine art. They pay for everything surrounding it. I'm sure people will pay more for the fact that they thought a painting had been lost for decades and then recovered than they would for the painting had it not gone missing. Especially when it was painted by a nobody. And that's who Wolfgang Beltracchi is. A nobody. So thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode on Wolfgang Beltracchi. I think easy to say the most famous art forger of all time.
Yeah, I would say that.
Not many, but
I don't know any, but he's the only one I know. But yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm just saying, Nina picked out 2 out of 3. So obviously he's not that good. All right.
You think I know a few things?
No, I think he's just not that good.
He fooled those people, though.
He did fool a lot of people. Before the internet was around, though, also.
That's true.
So a little bit easier. But I'm glad the internet is here, though. You know why? So you guys can listen to us in this episode. And if you liked it, you can go ahead and show us some love back. Write a review, please. You can write a review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a star review on there, too, if words aren't your thing. And you can also leave a review on Spotify. If you missed the original or criminal game today, once again, you can check out our videos on Spotify, or you can go to youtube.com/whitecollarsredhands, and you can catch all of our videos there. They're uploaded at the exact same time that the audio is, so no reason not to, unless you don't pay for YouTube Premium, and then you can't, turn off your screen and have the music playing, even though that's a super easy thing to do, and Google is just gatekeeping you out of it. I'm going to calm down. All right.
You're right.
You can check our socials at facebook.com/whitecollarsredhands, Twitter at whitecollarspod, or X, God, I'm still saying Twitter, X at whitecollarspod, Instagram at whitecollars
Twitter to me.
_redhead. What was that? Was that a Roman salute I just saw you do?
No, this is me worshiping the Lord.
Just today's episode got you in the mood, huh? To throw up a Roman salute. For all those people listening on audio medium, there's no way you can't defend yourself. What is your word versus mine? You can also catch us at TikTok at White Collars Red Hands. You can go to our website, whitecollarsredhands.com. You can listen right there on the website. And while you're there, you can hit the button that says check out our merch. That'll take you over to Dashery, where you can buy a hat, a t-shirt, a sticker, quite a few other things. It's merch. You've been hawked merch before. It's that, but it has our stuff on it, and we get some of the money instead of, I don't know, whoever else you listen to. Well, whoever our Venn diagram is that you also listen to and you've bought their merch, you should buy our merch, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The best way that you can support the podcast, though, why don't you just tell a friend, huh? Go and play the game with them. See if they know that all the paintings are by Hitler. I'll send you the deck. Go ahead and send us an email, whitecollarsredhands@gmail.com. I'll send you the slide deck, and you can use it. Is that it?
I think that's it.
I'm starting to lose my voice. So yeah, I think we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week on another episode of White Collars, Red Hands. And we're back at being bad.